All right, legends, welcome back to Behind the Crime Scene. Settle in, because today we're breaking down one of the toughest and most baffling mysteries unfolding in the Australian outback right now. We're talking about the disappearance of 4-year-old August Gus Lamont, the little bloke who vanished from his family's remote South Australian property more than 2 months ago. And this case, it is getting more complicated by the day. Because just last week, police announced they'd discovered 6 mine shafts around the Lamont property. Shafts nobody knew existed. Shafts that weren't on any map. Shafts that required advanced LiDAR technology to detect. But before we even get to those shafts, there's a crucial detail many people still don't realize. When Gus disappeared, the family didn't call police immediately. They searched on their own for almost 3 hours first. Now I want you to think about that. 3 hours in the outback. 3 hours where a small child could walk a huge distance. 3 hours before trained search crews even knew something was wrong. Does that change how you see the timeline? Does it make the search more difficult? And do you think you'd have done the same if it were your property? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want deeper breakdowns like this. Behind the Crime Scene is here to ask the questions no one else wants to. So let's go back to the start. Gus was last seen on the morning of September 27th. He was outside near the homestead playing. Inside the house, his grandmother was looking after his younger brother. His mother, another grandparent, were out tending sheep somewhere on the family's 6,000-hectare property. And when I say 6,000 hectares, I mean enormous. This isn't your average paddock. This is a vast stretch of scrub, rocks, creek beds, hills and hazards that go on and on. The type of land where a child could disappear from sight in under a minute. At some point, and it's unclear exactly when, the family realized Gus wasn't in sight. They began searching immediately. But it wasn't until roughly 3 hours later that police were finally called. Now, I'm not judging the family. Anyone who has lived in the bush knows you don't pick up the phone every time a kid goes quiet. But I want you to consider this question. In a landscape as unforgiving as the far north of South Australia, does 3 hours make the difference between finding someone and never finding them? The search that followed would become one of the largest in recent years. Police, SES crews, volunteers, drones, aircraft, horses, heat mapping tech, the works. They drained a dam holding more than 3 million litres. They walked kilometre after kilometre under brutal heat. They combed an area covering 470 square kilometres. And what did they find? One single footprint, about 500 metres from the homestead. But as weeks went by, no new leads appeared, no new sightings, no evidence pointing in any direction. Then came last week's announcement, and everything changed. Because police discovered something they didn't know existed. 6 abandoned mine shafts hidden around the Lamont property. These weren't just overlooked, they were completely unknown. No documentation, no local record, nothing in government databases. The only reason they were found is because police used LiDAR, an advanced remote sensing technology that sends out laser pulses to create an incredibly detailed 3D map of the land. Now here's where the story widens. Because these shafts aren't new. They're remnants of a gold rush era that shaped the region long before any modern property lines existed. So the moment police said, "We've found 6 hidden shafts," a whole new conversation began. How many more are out there? How many old sites were dug, abandoned and forgotten? And could a small child really come across one without anyone noticing? Let me ask you. When was the last time you walked your entire property and knew every hazard on it? Could you name every sinkhole, creek bed, washout or old post hole? And if we're talking about land that's 6,000 hectares, is it even possible? Let's go deeper. The region surrounding Yunta has a wild mining history. Back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, prospectors swarmed through the landscape chasing gold. And when a field boomed, it boomed. When it dried up, everyone left overnight. In 1886, more than 5,000 miners rushed to the Tulpa goldfield northeast of Yunta. In 3 years, they pulled out more than 3 tons of gold. But the operations were rough, rushed, and chaotic. Shafts were dug fast. Tunnels were left half-supported. Records were patchy at best, non-existent at worst. And when the miners packed up, the holes stayed. No fences, no markers, no closure, just deep, dangerous shafts hidden by dust and scrub. So here's another question. Should governments have done more over the decades to document and secure these sites, or is that unrealistic in territory this vast? I'd love to know what you think. And this isn't just history. These shafts have claimed lives. In 2006, a 55-year-old man from Puraka fell into a shaft at Kuba PD and died. That same year, a woman was found dead in a shaft in the Dead Man's Gully opal field. And in 2024, a man survived a 30-meter fall into an opal shaft, but only because someone found him in time. So when police detected 6 shafts around the Lamont property, it wasn't some minor detail, it was a major development. Because these things aren't shallow, some mines in the area go as deep as 260 meters. Imagine searching for a child in country dotted with holes that are effectively vertical graves. You might walk within a meter of one and never notice it. And this brings us to the hardest question so far. Could Gus have wandered into one? I'm not saying he did. Police have not confirmed anything like that. But when 6 shafts suddenly appear on the map after 2 months, you have to ask. The gold rush towns around Yunta tell this same story. Places like Wakaringa were once booming settlements with hotels, post offices, blacksmiths and shops. Today, there are just stone chimneys, decaying walls, and dust. The last owner of the Wakaringa Hotel was Billy Mackenzie, an Aboriginal drover who bought the pub outright with cash from his saddlebags. He ran it until the town was nearly dead. After that, another bloke bought it and stripped it for scrap. When towns collapse overnight, records collapse with them, and the land remembers everything except where the danger is. So when police said they didn't know these shafts existed, that wasn't incompetence. It was history coming back to affect the present. Now here's something that genuinely concerns me. If these 6 shafts were completely unknown until last week, how many others are out there between Yunta, Tulpa, Wakaringa, and the surrounding scrub? And should LiDAR be used far more often in remote missing persons cases? Because look at what it just uncovered, literally. Let me ask you directly, do you think LiDAR should be a mandatory part of all large-scale Outback searches? Or is it too expensive to roll out everywhere? Tell me below. Your opinion matters. Now, let's go back to the Lamont case. Police drained an entire dam. Nothing. They combed massive distances. Nothing. They found that footprint. Nothing more came from it. And now these mine shafts have offered a grim but important new direction. For the Lamont family and the Yunta community, the emotional toll has been enormous. Family friend Bill Harbison said it clearly, "We miss him more than words can express." This isn't a big coastal city where tragedies fade into the background. Yunta is tiny. When something happens to one family, it hits everyone. And this brings another question, a human one. Why are some cases remembered loudly and others fade quickly? Is it media attention, geography, or just luck? And how do we as a community keep these cases alive without slipping into speculation or blame? Because let me be very clear, these are theories based on publicly known information. We only deal with what is confirmed. No rumors, no finger-pointing, just facts and the questions they create. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens put it plainly. There are lots of places a small child might find themselves which are hard to identify. He wasn't exaggerating. Out here a child could move fast. Terrain can swallow footprints. Wildlife can disturb signs. Heat can erase evidence. And when 3 hours pass before the alarm is raised, even the best trackers in the country are starting the race already behind. But police also continue to say there is no evidence of foul play, but they have not ruled it out. That's important. It means every possibility is still on the table. So here's one more question for you. If this were happening in your own rural community, what would your gut tell you? Accident? Misadventure? Something else? There is no wrong answer. I want to hear your reasoning. Before we wrap up, if you want updates on cases like this, real details, real questions, none of the nonsense, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Behind the Crime Scene is here to break these stories down properly. The search for Gus is still active. Police have new ground to check. And while these shafts may hold no answers, they represent something the investigation has needed for weeks, new leads. Because the hardest part of any missing persons case isn't the heat or the terrain or the distance, it's the silence. And that silence is something this family and this community desperately wants to break.